updated vaccines for new COVID variants. Canada is expected to follow suit. While we await that decision, experts are expecting a spike in cases as people return to work and school next week. Raywat Deonandan is an epidemiologist and associate professor at University of Ottawa's Faculty of Health Sciences. We reached him this afternoon. Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay. We just heard Dr. Gorfinkel say how the XBB vaccine uptake has been low. What's happening with COVID spread right now in Ottawa that we know about?
Well, it's increasing, obviously, and it's spiking all over the continent. Ottawa is not as bad as other parts of the continent, but it'll get there. We have schools in places like Tennessee and Alabama that are being overwhelmed already. So there's every expectation we're going to see a fairly high wave in the coming weeks.
Okay. When we say high wave, what could we be seeing?
Well, I mean, it's a complicated question because we're going to see a lot of infection for sure because these new variants, the so-called flirt variants, are really avoiding the immune opportunities offered by the previous vaccinations and previous infection. And so people who think they've got some immunity don't anymore. So a lot more people are going to be infected. But it looks like the severity for those with previous immunity is not as great. However, I would be careful how I phrase this. This is not going to be an existential threat to our hospitals anymore because we have so much population immunity. But because so many people are getting infected, those people who will be hospitalized are more likely to do so. So it is a serious concern for a fraction of people who might be a substantial fraction. But yeah, a lot of people are going to get infected.
Okay. So, I mean, can you clarify that a little bit more than Raywat? Because I know that people are hearing it. Wait a minute. So is this to be worried about or not to be worried
It's
about?
always something to be worried about because, you never know if you're going to have a bad reaction or a bad experience, or if someone you love who is vulnerable is going to have a bad experience. But I want to be careful again how I phrase that because I don't want to be fear-mongering. We aren't where we were in 2020. This is not the existential threat that it was. But for some people it is. And so we have to keep in mind that we are a community and we have to seek to protect those who can't protect themselves for whatever reason, immunocompromised, the elderly, etc. And there may be some evidence suggesting that every COVID infection impairs you to some capacity, but that's a question for the immunologist to debate. The bottom line is we should try not to get infected. We should try not to infect others. It's shutting down businesses. It's shutting down schools in Tennessee and Alabama. We don't want to do that again.
What should somebody be doing then to protect themselves from pain? We'll get to the fall booster in a
Right.
moment from Health Canada. But if we don't have that right now, what else should people be doing to protect themselves from infection?
Yeah, you have the option of getting the existing vaccine while you wait for the fall booster. The official guidance on that is if you are compromised in some way, if you're elderly or obese or otherwise vulnerable, get it. I think if you're looking forward to an event, you should seek it as well. And that event might be the opening of school, where suddenly you're going to be exposed to a lot of things. So you've got that option. I think you should really consider masking in key areas like crowded indoor spaces. I mask religiously in public transit, but not everywhere else, So we manage our individual risk in different ways. And if you have a child going to school, please, 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 if your child has symptoms, don't send them to school. It's never a good thing. It doesn't have to be COVID. It might be flu or cold. Don't infect other people. I think those simple things will go a long way. And I wish decision makers would really consider improving ventilation. That's an easy infrastructural fix that could reap many benefits down the road.
Do you have a sense of how much buy-in there was to improving ventilation? During sort of the height of the pandemic, we're doing story after story after story. Oh yeah, there's the possibility, and there was talk of money and the infrastructure, and this is what needed to be changed, even though it had been talked about prior to COVID. Yeah. I know, not just for COVID, but for so many of other things spread the same way. And I don't know, just anecdotally, I feel that sort of sense of people saying, "Oh well, we're past that now."
I've seen zero desire to improve ventilation in the public sector. Private sector is a bit different. I know a lot of physicians, for example, who have high quality HEPA filters in their offices, lawyers' offices, etc. People who can afford it and recognize the science behind it, invest in it. Famously, Davos had exquisitely good COVID control using ventilation protocols. So the people who know and have the resources are doing it. And for some reason, the tax-funded institutions are not. And this is disappointing. I've had many interactions with people at a very official level about this, and they they bring out outdated science to combat my arguments, and it's frustrating. But it's such an easy, obvious investment to make that, again, will pay remarkable public health dividends down the road. It's something we should be doing now.
And I know you're not in charge of Health Canada, but when could we expect a full booster, like the one that we
Right.
don't have right now?
I wouldn't be surprised if they okay it sometime in early September, and that means getting doses on this soil by the end of September, early October at best. I wouldn't be surprised if you wait until November, given how glacially slow this rollout tends to be.
Why do you think it wasn't ready for back to school?
Oh boy. Well, it kind of was. In the American case, it was ready for back to school. It's ready now in
I
the
guess I
US.
mean here.
In here, yeah. I don't know. There's some complacency. There's a bit of fear of getting ahead of the ball. Want to wait to see what the Americans do. There may be something happening, in the back office we're not aware of, where the drug companies want to make sure it's available in the U.S. first. I don't know. That's not my conspiratorial mind talking. I generally don't know. But I think historically we tend to be a bit slower on the take than the Americans, but we're faster than other parts of the world. So there's that going forward as well. I think there's also a desire, a very conservative desire to wait for data, which in this case is really not necessary. We have pretty good laboratory data suggesting the efficacy of the new formulation and years of safety data for the platform. So there's no need for that. And I anticipate that we'll get to the point where we okay these new boosters like we okay the flu ones. It doesn't go through rigorous administrative screening because it's a proven technology. I think we're almost there.
So, and the funding for Ottawa's wastewater testing program runs out end of September.
Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? That's such an obvious thing to put money into. It's really comparatively cheap. It doesn't require us to do anything. Every other kind of surveillance requires people to line up and be tested, to get sick first, to go to the hospital, all that stuff. This requires you to do nothing except go to the bathroom as you would normally. It's passive, and you can tweak it for your own personal public health needs. And by personal, I mean for the needs of the community. Um, it makes no sense to me to be downloading this to the federal government except to save a few bucks. And it is literally a few bucks. You lose a lot of resolution. You lose the power of geographical specificity. You lose the ability to pivot if there's a local need of what to surveil. So it is frustrating and unnecessary. And I hope that our decision makers take a second look at this program and recognize that going forward, we should build in this kind of infrastructure into every kind of urban setting. This is an obvious, easy, passive fix to prepare for future pandemics.
Raywat, thanks again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, associate professor at University of Ottawa's Faculty of Health Sciences.